You're adaptable, aren't we?
Yeah, I like your mug, by the way.
Yeah, my daughter got me that one, man.
That's sick.
Cocoa Beach mug.
Right on. Is it Alvin Island you got it? Do you know?
I don't know where she got that from, man.
Alvin Island's got some sick stuff as far as all those.
I think she got it from Surf Style.
Oh,
one of those. She's a shopper, you know. She loves shopping. Yeah.
How close do I need this thing?
I like it like almost a fist from your face, man. The closer you are, the deeper your voice is. And then the further away, obviously, the quieter you're going to be. Yeah. And then when you got that on, you can hear it.
Yeah, let's figure out how to do this.
Let's figure that
puppy.
out. Oh, that's not bad, man. Under the hat.
Ooh. Yeah, we'll try it.
You getting fancy.
Maybe.
No?
The hat is fit for my head. So my head plus a thingy.
What do you think?
I don't know. You let me know.
It looks good to me.
I can't see me.
Yeah. Can you hear yourself though?
I can.
See, that kind of locks you into the moment, I suppose.
I feel like we're in eye contact even when I'm not looking at you.
Because you can hear?
Because we're just like right there. Dude, this is intimate.
This is very intimate. Yes. It's about to get weird. Hold on, Mike.
Woo!
Yeah, woo. All right. Well, we're rolling here. Let me jump right in. So on the mics today, we got Mike Patton, and I'm glad you're doing this, man, because we've been passing each other in the hall for over a year now and talked about all kinds of different things in 5 to 10 minute increments. So I thought it'd be cool to sit down and put this on recording, if you will, for all to hear. So appreciate you joining us, and thanks for stopping by, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
And if we could only have captured all of those little snippets,
you know,
it might have been the best podcast ever.
That is the goal, to make the best podcast ever. But you know what's been fun about doing this is people have come back, you know, like 6 months down the road, come back in, talk for another hour, you know, come back 6 months again, talk again for another 2 hours. So if you find yourself enjoying it, we don't get through everything in the hour today, we'll come back, man, and talk through some more.
I hope so.
So
because to hear a story one moment at a time, it's not nearly as cool as to see it form and change. Yeah. And, you know, all that good stuff.
For sure, man, because as you think about things sometimes, and then my memory gets worse, so my recollection of things sometimes later, that's what's nice about this too, is putting it actually down to be able to sit back and look at maybe 20 years from now and be
Modern man's diary.
That's it, modern man's diary. And my handwriting's bad, so this is better. You know, this is better than recording. Nice. So, Mike, what I wanted to maybe start with talking is, you're from the Space Coast, right? I know you went to Merritt Island High School. Were you born over here, or?
Oh, you're going to start off. We're going to take the first hour for this,
dude. We can go quick on this one. But
yeah, so Cocoa Beach High.
Yeah,
graduated Cocoa Beach High. Yeah. I moved here in the 8th grade.
Okay.
I'd moved to somewhere around 8 or 9 states prior to that.
Damn.
We can jump into that in a minute if you want. But yeah, came here at the beach. Okay, it's worth the whole story. So I was born in New Jersey, moved down to Mississippi. My father decided to go to grad school, get a PhD. I was about 4 years old. And so I remember moving down there. It was a fun time to live pretty much on a campus between the ages of 4 and 10. Okay. We were playing tags through the library, all the stacks of books, try to roll them and crush each other. It was a blast. And also maybe set a certain curiosity for me for college, for sure. We used to sneak into all of the Mississippi State basketball games and football games, and we're like 7, you know, but you can crawl under the fences, and nobody worried about anything back then. It was a tight community. If you stopped at a stoplight, you always looked left and right because you probably knew the person. And it was safe, which is really cool. I have a young son now, 2 years old, and I know you have kids too. And so finding a place where they can be free range kids, I realize is getting rarer and rarer, or I was extremely lucky. But it's probably a combination of both. So cherish that. Always called that home. After he got his PhD, he worked for a number of government agencies around the U.S.
Okay. You're not helping your case. I think Mike's a CIA agent in disguise. Now I know your dad's working for government agencies. Now for sure, I'm gonna lean into this some. But sorry, had to take the moment to let everyone know I think you're a secret agent over here. He's never once denied it, by the way. Nice. Would your son, and you know my format, man, we can jump around to anywhere, but your son, I was thinking about him earlier with what we were going to talk about, and you actually, that subject, would you let your kid at 7 roam around like you did, cutting through the halls and sneaking in under fences? If you had that same thing, would you want your son to do that same kind of stuff?
100%.
Yeah.
I think he's about 2 now, and I think is more capable than he realizes. If it's just him versus the world, the natural world, 100%. I think he was flipping burgers at 1.5 years on a hot grill.
Really?
Okay. You say something's hot. I mean, he's a weird kid because he actually picks up what you say.
Okay.
I probably was not that. I got burnt my first birthday. He got tried to eat the candle.
He got that from his mom. Is that what you're saying?
Probably.
Came from the mom's stomach?
Yeah, that and the looks, thank God. But
nice.
But yeah, I can tell him something.
Yeah.
And he will 100% absorb it. At 2. So by the time he's 7, I'm sure he's going to get wily, as I hope he does.
Yeah.
Right? And be able to push himself and get hurt. Yeah. In my opinion, the job of a father is not to protect your kid, but to let them get hurt enough that it's not permanent.
I see. And then they can learn from that some too. Like, hey, that's hot. Don't do that again. Hey, it hurts to fall from something this high. Try not to do that again.
Exactly. If he could fall off of something, and I know it was only going to hurt, and maybe bruise.
Yeah. No break.
But no break?
Yeah.
I'd say all day long.
Okay. I get both sides of that, right? Because my son's 12 now and my daughter's 9. I get the parents that want to put them in a bubble. They want them to be so safe, never get injured, never get their hands dirty. I understand that, but I don't know if that's right or wrong. Is very subjective. I'm more like you, where I want them to learn things, try things, figure out what they like, don't like, and then if you get hurt along the way, hopefully it's not too permanent. But shit, man, I mean, everybody goes through some sort of injury or some sort of something usually throughout their life. That's how you learn.
Yeah, that's what shapes you. And to what you talked about with the bubble, I think it's the natural inclination as a parent.
Yeah.
To protect.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think it's the best thing for them. In a way, that's selfish, right? You're protecting them to make you feel good. Knowing, and maybe this is, the right or wrong thing is tough to toy with. But from my perspective, as a father specifically, because you need that nurturing component as well.
Yeah.
Right? Whenever he gets hurt, he runs to mom. He asked me for a mom hug the other day. I said, do you want a hug? He's like, no, I want a mom hug. I'm like, can I give you a mom hug? He's like, yeah. But it's got to be a mom hug.
Nice.
Right? Because that's the nurturing figure. I think that's the beautiful thing of a full family. Yeah. That you can be the dynamic. You can have both without kind of contradicting yourself.
Sure.
It's got to be tough being a single parent.
Yeah.
Unless you're really good with the mother. Really good with the other person.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the ideal environment for kids. Luckily, my wife and I, we got a great relationship. We've been together, almost 15 years now. And, like all relationships, they go through different stages. But, kids really help just the whole family unit, and the idea of breaking that apart or having to do that on your own, or even living separately, to where you're not there. Because I'm like you, I like to be there for everything, man, especially as they're getting into these ages.
Thank God for picture messaging, because I couldn't get through the workday. I don't think, knowing how much I missed.
Wait till they are old enough to start sending you the things they're doing, man. We held off on cell phones for a while, but my son being 12 and playing so much football and doing so many different things, it's nice that if he's doing something without us, to be able to communicate. So I had to get one naturally for my 9-year-old daughter, which I was against. But I tell you, man, it is cool because they use them very sparingly, and they just use them sometimes to communicate when we're not around. But it's great seeing the things they're taking pictures of or the stuff they're doing. So it's a new world for kids, and it's going to keep changing. Your son, what he's going to have to deal with and overcome and figure out is different than what we had to, and that's going to always keep changing.
Well, you're a good testament, and thank you for what you just said, because it almost confirms to me that if you lay a good foundation, you can slap technology that maybe leverages certain components of your kids and pulls the triggers of dopamine and things like that, and they can navigate it.
Definitely.
And so as long as you have a good foundation, and that's kind of the goal, right? Yeah. As a parent, as a father particularly, I believe, you set a foundation so they can go away from the nest. Yeah. Right? And that's the contrary to kind of the mother figure in my mind. And for any of the listeners, I don't disparage anybody who's a single parent, because, that's hard. Yeah. But instead of potentially being both the nurturing and stern figure at the same time, which is, God, I don't know how you can do that. And I don't know how a kid can absorb that. Maybe find somebody else, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a mother if you want to be the more stern figure that lets them fall. Find somebody who can hug them in a way that I guess my kid doesn't think I can. Something like that. And maybe it's a grandparent, maybe it's a friend. I think that the longer I live, the more I realize how much there's value in that, because then the figure in their mind can be more consistent. And as much as I gather, there's real utility in that. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think so. I think, and sometimes it's hard because I'm not as nurturing, as maybe, my wife is with certain things, I can definitely be, and I give good hugs. They like hugs, but I think they've changed me in a way that, you hear about it when you have kids and stuff, but they've definitely increased my capacity to love something. I told my mother, I remember this, man, I told her that I'm not sure if love is a real thing. It just seemed like a concept that maybe was created. It sounds great.
Something you hear in songs.
Or movies or whatever. But the older I get, and with having kids, whether you call it love, whatever you call it, whether it's that nurturing or wanting to protect them, or sometimes I think that protection aspect is because you want your genes to go on. It's something way deep, dude. Like that's part of the survival is your genes pass on, and then if they don't survive, then your genes aren't passing on. The line stops.
Well, think of that from a human level. If they go on, you've done something in the world that you can put your finger on.
Sure.
You're like, I did this, and this will continue. You can hug that thing.
100%.
If you make a business, you can't really put your finger on it.
Yeah.
Who knows if it's going to crash after? Right. And that reminds me of Elon Musk. It's like he does some great things. What happens when he's gone? I don't know, man. Yeah. Very interesting stuff.
And he's got kids all over the place.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah.
I mean, there's one guy who's definitely changed the world. I mean, he definitely has. Whether you like him, whether you like his managerial style, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's changed the world for sure.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting life.
Yeah. Interesting cat, man, for sure. Yeah. We could talk about kids all day, but, I think the question about the Space Coast, I like to ask people, what brought you back here and what keeps you here? Because you're doing all kinds of shit, man. You're out there fishing, you're surfing, you're paddling. What's kept you here for so long? Or back here? Because you've been all over.
Do you want the official answer or kind of the maybe more real funny one that I just thought of?
Either way, man. You tell me.
All right, we'll start with the funny. So, so I'm a big fisherman. I always have been. I've been freaking obsessed since I was 5 years old. I think my dad gave me a stringer because he was out there fishing, and I somehow attached a hook to the stringer, put it just next to the store, and pulled up a giant fish.
Dang. In a river? Where were you at?
A little pond in Mississippi.
A pond, okay.
It wasn't my first fish, but...
Yeah. The one you remember.
Oh, that was a big one.
Nice.
And it was such a fluke because I didn't even cast. It was right there next to the grass, and there happened to be a hole there. I'm like, it's magic.
Yeah. And then hooked for the rest of your life.
Hooked forever. So, I was on the forums and everything. Anyway, saltwater fishing is really exciting. For anybody listening who doesn't do saltwater fishing, freshwater fishing is you can catch bass or bluegill if you're real diverse, crappie and trout, and maybe some pike if you're up north. Yeah. That's pretty much all you catch. Catfish. Yeah. Can't forget catfish. Yeah. I've spent many, many years trying to catch the giantest catfish ever. Yeah. In saltwater, you could probably catch 24 fish and not one of them is going to be the same.
Sure.
There's just so much diversity. And some of that's the kid in me that's just curious about the world, right? You throw your line into this darkness, and something on the other end's pulling back, and you have no idea what it is until you get it to the boat.
Nice.
That is really exciting to me.
I agree wholeheartedly, man. And, I'm an avid bass fisherman. Did you know this?
I did not.
Dude, I have been bass fishing since I was probably 8. Right. And then when I was 10 or 11, I caught the 10-pounder. It's mounted on the wall. So now for 25 years, I've been trying to find another 10-pounder, and I have not found it yet. So that's part of the fun for me. And
now, does that keep you going, or does that turn you away?
Both. There's stages where I'm like, okay, I'm putting too much time into this. I got to focus on other things. But it always keeps calling me back. And I think that's what you hit something there that struck with me, is that kid mind, that child mindset. I feel like I've never lost that. There's certain things in my life, fishing and surfing, mostly those two things, that I've been doing now for 25, almost 30 years in some cases, and that I hope to continue to be able to do for the rest of my life. And that's part of staying a kid, keeping that interest in things, and having hobbies, man. I think that's why fishing, to touch on that one. But the hunt for, keep trying to get better at it, something to improve at. But I've tried, man. I filmed 60 different locations for bass fishing, trying to find another 10-pounder. Closest.
What do you mean filmed?
Oh, dude, I on my YouTube channel.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man.
I filmed for the
hunt for the 10-pound.
Well, there's not many 10-pound bass out there, but I've seen some farmed things where people go in there and find them. But
so in Florida, they just changed. They're not largemouths anymore. Florida has its own unique species. They call it the Florida bass. They did some genetic testing, so they don't call them in Florida largemouth. This was only like 6 months ago.
So it looks like a largemouth, but it's just a monstrosity. It doesn't have the growth regulators that maybe that you would
get in another state, So there's guys all the time, man. 10, 12, 13, 16. I forget what the state record is, but there's a trophy class now, which is 8 pounds and above. And then, so now if you document it, you get documented in the trophy class. So I've been trying to get into that a little bit, bass fishing, but the saltwater side has always eluded me because of surfing. If I'm at the beach, I'm surfing. My uncles are like the dudes at snook fishing off the beach and redfish and deep sea fishing and stuff like that. I've caught one snook in my life. I've been living in Florida for forever, dude.
Yeah.
So the saltwater eludes me a little bit, but freshwater, I'm all about it, man. I'm all about it.
This is how I've negotiated in my head between surfing and fishing, because obviously they're both haunting you and calling you. If the waves are good, you probably don't want to be on a boat.
Right.
But if there are no waves and you're at the beach, what better thing to do than go fishing?
True.
So that's the way I've navigated it.
Not bad. That's
I've even thought like offshore, onshore winds. Like if they're offshore winds, if they're blowing toward the offshore, which I know is backwards, but whatever. I'll go surfing just because the winds are nice. But if it's blowing the other way, onshore winds, I'll go hop to the river and go fishing because it's nice and calm over there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you got a nice boat too, don't you? What do you got?
Yeah, 20-foot Key West.
20-foot Key West, that's right.
By the way, I have to give mad props.
For what?
To Key West.
Oh, yeah.
So as an avid fisherman at the age of 4, the only thing holding me back was I could not get on the water. Right. I got really good at mitigating that hurdle and being able to catch a lot of fish from shore. Well, after 30 years, I got a boat. And that's not the thing that was holding me back. There's this old saying that people on shore are always trying to cast as far from shore as they can. And all the people on the boat are trying to get as close to the shore as they can.
That's hilarious. I never heard that.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
The boat, and if you go out on the river, you'll see that.
Yeah.
Like all the people on the shore are just wailing it.
Yeah.
Right? And trying to cast as far off because all the fish are just out of reach.
Yeah.
And all the guys on the boat are trying to get as shallow as possible, trying to get on the shore.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah. And it costs a lot of money to learn that lesson. But it's a very real lesson.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why I only really fish offshore now. It's like the only thing I couldn't touch before. But yeah, I'll leave that out there for your listeners. That's a good lesson.
That's a good one, man. That's what's calling you. But I think there is something primal to fishing too. This idea of it's a game, and you're trying to get better at it. But definitely with saltwater. I mean, I've eaten freshwater bass. It's okay. Fresh and catfish.
What's your favorite fish?
To eat or to catch?
To eat. 100% to eat.
Oof. Snook's good. Redfish is good. I don't know, man. I don't know.
What do you think about bass? And then how do you prepare? What's the best way you prepared it? I've got an answer to this, but I just want to be
The only
curious.
way I've cooked it, honestly, is over a campfire. That's the only time I've ever eaten freshwater bass, is literally like almost skewered it, fillet it, put it on and just rotate it and eat it that way. Yeah, man, pretty good.
It's pretty soft fish. So that's kind of
very
cool
soft,
that you can
flaky meat. I was out with the kids. We do a couple camping trips a year. Here around Florida, and we caught one decent bass. And we're like, let's eat one. Everybody wanted to do a catch and cook because that's one of the things the kids like. Oh yeah, man. That's what some of the kids like to watch. So we did it, man. But it was good. But bass is not bad. I know a lot of people fry it, cut it up that way. But what's your favorite?
A lot of people don't like it. Yeah. And I go up to Minnesota probably every year, maybe every other year, and spend some time in the woods up there. And the Weiss family's up there. And they have an internal family fisherman, and then I'm the external family fisherman. We always compete.
Nice.
But anyway, I was slaying it. And so I brought home all these bass, and they're staying at the cabin. There's 30 people. I made something kind of like tuna, how you mix tuna with mayo and pickles and all that. So I made something like that, but with some cayenne and got some little kick to it. I'd love to give you the recipe. You could post it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's a family secret. Maybe I've developed a family secret. I'm just realizing this.
Dude, we ought to just eat it. I wish you had some now.
Oh, God. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I brought it into the little gazebo. Had their whole family all judging me. Who's this guy bringing in all the fish?
The outside fisherman.
One of our family members, Brenda, dips a chip in and goes, and I'm like, oh, no, she's choking. Oh. Then she blew up and gave me a big hug, and then just started screaming, "This is bass ass!" And what does that mean?
Is that good?
And so she's like, "This is the best bass she's ever had," and then everyone dove into it, and I'm like, "Okay,
nice."
So anyway, if you're out there and you're like, "Man, I love catching bass. I love the idea of self-sustaining my family, but no one can stand bass." Make it kind of like tuna fish.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Big chunks of bass in there.
I got to try it, man. I got to try it. I have such a, anyone I catch, I want to throw it back and hope it gets bigger. Back to that hunt for the 10-pounder, But,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the saltwater, that one gets to me sometimes. I'd love to learn, surf fish and spend more time when the waves are not that good. Just learn how to catch stuff off the beach. The offshore stuff, I've done it once as a kid, man. And something, I don't know, man.
How far off did you go?
I don't remember.
Can you see the shore?
No. No, we were way out there. But and I got seasick. So that dude, I was probably 12, maybe 13. I was young, and that stuck with me. But also, I don't know if I trust people because I don't have my own boat to trust someone enough to take me offshore to be like, all right, they know what they're doing.
Don't worry, I'll take you. You trust me, right?
I know. We're working.
You trust me?
We're working on it, man.
We'll see how the podcast goes.
Yeah, nice. No, but people are always like, oh yeah, we'll bring the families out. We'll go offshore 60 miles. I'm like, it's one thing for me to go, another thing to bring my kids. And I know, man, that's overthinking things.
No, I don't take. I mean, my son's only 2.
Yeah,
but I don't plan on anytime soon taking him offshore.
No.
I don't, and it's not that I don't trust him or I don't trust the boat, or I don't trust me. The boats fail. It happens all the time.
Of course,
I see plenty of pictures of people standing on the bow of their boat, or they swam to a buoy, and they're just on there for 12 hours.
Yikes!
That happens a lot more than people think.
Oh.
It's all the other boaters.
Yeah.
It's suddenly you don't just trust you, but you just trust everyone out there, and it's you still go through that risk when you're inshore, but at least it's 4 feet deep.
Right.
Or 2 feet deep.
Yeah.
And it's worst comes to worst, there's a way out.
Yeah.
I'd hate... Have you tried to just tread water holding one of your kids?
That's funny.
For a long time?
Yes. And we were just talking about this because of water polo in the Olympics. We were talking about treading water, but difficult. And then if you are holding someone or keeping someone afloat, you can't just flip to your back and chill, especially if they don't know how to do it. But I spent a lot of time treading water, teaching my kids how to swim in the ocean. Yeah.
That might be a good thing for me to do.
Yeah.
See, look at this. I'm getting insights from my life. Thank you guys for listening to this and being the excuse for me to go become a better dad. I might just go sit in the pool for see if I can tread with him for 15 minutes.
And he's 2 now?
He's 2. He loves the pool. He'll jump in.
Yeah.
His head floats, which helps.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get up for air yet.
Okay.
So he's right there.
Have you seen the infant training they do with kids where they like throw them in? They somehow teach them how to flip over and come back up. It's some of the craziest footage I've seen where parents are just standing on the sideline watching someone throw their kid in, and like it is pretty cool to see them survive. You know, like they know what to do, but they're little, man, like 10 months, 11 months. But my kids were all swimming by 2 and then surfing by 4. Just
really?
naturally.
Okay, so I gotta get on this.
Okay, it's not a comparison, man, but you
know. No, it's an inspiration.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But the so the old Nirvana photo of the baby underwater.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
I do know that.
Okay. That was my inspiration. I've heard all the same stories. You get a newborn, you just throw them in the pool.
Yeah.
And they just know. It's not true. I mean, maybe there's some kids out there who know.
No, I don't think they just know instinctually.
Yeah. That's what the claim was.
Oh, I thought they taught them.
No, the claim was if you get them young enough, they know, and then you have this basis to teach them.
Dude, kids drown in pools all the time, dude. I would not trust that.
So I'm sitting there with my newborn.
Tell me you throw him in. Jesus.
He's a survivor. If he can survive me, he's ready for the world, right? That's the mission of a father.
No wonder I don't want a dad hug. He's gonna throw me in the water. Jesus.
So we're in the pool, and okay, there's some user error of the father here.
Okay.
Because maybe if I would have slowly put him down, he would have held his breath. But I'm like, choo, and went down with him. He's underwater, and instead of holding his breath, and he loves to eat. Like he was a year in a few months and could eat a pound of prime rib.
Wow.
Like a full pound. You put a pound in front of him, everyone's laughing like, what are you doing over there? And you walk away, you come back, it's all gone.
Dude, he's
all of it.
Huge, man.
And so he loves to eat. Nice. So he's underwater. Instead of holding his breath, he's like, I could just drink all this.
Oh.
So I'm underwater with him looking at him. He's like, and he's just going to town on the pool. And I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. And so he came up and he's like, and he didn't hold it against me. He didn't hold it against the pool. But every time we went in, he just would try to drink it all. And so I had to stop it from doing that. Yeah, sure. So just all I got to say is if you have a newborn and you're like, well, just throw him in a pool. Listen to your motherly instinct. Yes. Don't listen to dad.
He'll be fine. I've seen it on TikTok.
Awesome. So yeah. Play cautious. Nice. Listen to yourself. And actually, for any parent out there, or even aspiring parent, like be comforted in the thing that you feel.
Yeah.
And don't let your head stop the thing that you feel. Because, and I can't explain this too scientifically, we can jump into it if we want, but the gut feeling you have, which sometimes I might equate to the Holy Spirit or something else in religion, is more right than your brain seems to be. It's like your decision making comes from here, in my opinion, and I think the science kind of supports this, but your decision making comes from here. The justification for your decision making comes up here. And so when you have an urge to do something, more often than not, it's right. And the brain fills in the why. Because the problem with this is it can't give you a why. You make a decision, somebody says why. And if you don't have a reason, because of stoicism and a whole bunch of other reasons, other things, people say, well, it's not valid. The older I get, the more I realize that that's just not true. Right?
I hear that. And I think there's phrases that have been around for a long time for a reason, and trust your gut is one of those. People have been saying that for probably a really long time.
I always poo-pooed that. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Then there ends up being more nerves in your gut than pretty much anywhere else in your body.
Okay.
Yeah. Similar to a brain.
But I think
in a way,
your brain, let's say it starts here and then your brain looks for that why. I think sometimes your brain can be fucking with you and it can be telling you why you shouldn't trust your gut. What's the reasoning behind it or the rationalization? And then people have different kinds of minds, different. And so sometimes it's either the fear or the worry or whatever starts creeping in your head and like, okay, I'm not going to trust my gut in this certain scenario. But I agree with you, man.
And that's the thing I caution caution anyone who's listening about.
Yeah.
And I just know this through trial and error.
Yeah.
This thing's right. Whether you have a reason it's right or not, in a majority of the cases, it's right.
Yeah. I wonder where that comes from. Like where, I don't know. The Holy Spirit thing, maybe, could be, I always try to think sometimes of like, if evolution is real and people have different, like what is the evolutionary trait for that? And maybe it's food. I don't know. Like, why would you have all those nerves in your stomach? Maybe for food, maybe that's what the driving force of acquiring resources to be able to eat. I don't know. Because that's what we did for so long.
I've never thought of it from an evolutionary standpoint. Why? I mean, from really simple high-level terms, it's a matter of checks and balances, right? The same way the United States government has checks and balances, ideally. We won't go there.
Smooth. Yeah.
I mean, checks and balances are good because any system can spiral out of control. And people have urges that are not good. Like, I mean, drugs being the prime example. Just because you feel the urge to go do it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Sure.
And then maybe that's where the checks and balances of the brain. I've never thought about this, so I'm just spitballing here.
I do that regularly. Just throw something out there and spitball.
See what sticks.
The government comment's an interesting one because that's the one you and I have talked about some. You and I have had some interesting conversations about one specific candidate. That you are. There he is, Kennedy, 24. What is that? Declare your independence. So I've seen you, man, in full-on Kennedy gear. I've seen you getting signatures to get him on the ballot. I've seen your Jeep out there, with the flag on it in the mornings. But what's been your draw to him and sort of your feelings there?
Let me adjust my headset.
Okay.
We're getting serious.
We're getting serious now. We went from kids to fishing to politics.
I think this is about how I suspected it would go.
Dude, I hope you weren't suspecting much because we just wing things around here.
Okay, so I think if you go to probably something like 90% of America, 94% of America, it might even be higher than that. And if you pose a question like, how's the two-party system working? I don't think a single one of those 94% would be like, yeah,
it's perfect.
No one. No. They all know this. Whatever has happened is an abomination. You do run into a few people who are like, well, 2 parties better than 10 parties in Europe. I have run into that.
Okay.
And fair. Like, I was really interested in their claim. But nobody's super happy with what's happened. Now, you can say, I don't know who said this. But all this, I'm going to paraphrase something along the lines of, all government's evil. We're just looking for the best evil that we can put up with. Something like that.
Okay.
Which was kind of one of the principles of the Founding Fathers built on America. It's like, yes, it's a necessary, all government's evil. It's just a necessary evil. And so one of the principles, as far as I can tell, in my research, that the country was built on was that you do need some sort of a government, right?
Sure.
And you can make some good claims for why there needs to be government.
Yeah. Schools, roads, firemen, police. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But how much power do they really need? And so the founding principle was, you need a government. Let's give them the least amount of power as absolutely possible and put the power in the people instead. And then they will serve only what they're necessary for. And the people will be able to control all the rest. Right? And so my ideal of a country is kind of that. I think people are more capable than other people give them credit for. And I know I meet a lot of people who go, God, I hate people. They're all dumb. Fair, but are we producing dumb people? Like, intentionally? And that's a kind of a different question. But I think all people, based on genetics and the evolved natural selection process and all of that stuff, are very capable. And I think when, I don't want to necessarily say this, in a way to poo-poo anything, but I think you can observe this. If you baby anyone, they will not mature as fast as they could have.
Sure.
You think that as a child or anything like that.
No.
If you're on the government's tit, you're not going to wake up in the morning and go kick ass trying to secure whatever it is for yourself. Now, there's a place for the government's tit.
Yeah.
To keep the metaphor going.
Of course. For certain people, certain environments, 100%.
Yeah. But I think people are way more capable than folks in liberal cities who I talk to give them credit for. I think it's one good thing Florida, I think, is maybe, in my mind, Florida is the new Texas. I lived in Texas for a while.
Did you?
And every morning in Texas, you pledge allegiance to the Texas flag.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
At school?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
And the Texas flag was always a little bit higher than the American flag, but though they never said it was. Yeah. Always. Even at Whataburger. Every Whataburger, I think, would fly a Texas flag, and it was...
Nice.
It was beautiful. There was a lot of freedom there. Yeah. I think there's some reasons that has deteriorated somewhat. I think a lot of you can blame politics and things like that. But Florida, under DeSantis, and I think it's really the broader spectrum of what makes Florida, is a beautiful example. Maybe beautiful is not the right word. The whole Florida man concept running around. I don't want the whole United States to become Florida. Like I said, there's checks and balances.
Of course.
Yeah. But Florida's a prime example of what freedom can do and some amazing things. Like the Bright Future Scholarship here in Florida for kids going to school. Their college will be close to 100%, if not 80% paid for by lottery ticket money here in the United States, or here in Florida, as far as I understand it. There are a lot of beautiful things that have happened in Florida, even in COVID, that I think were terrific examples for how a state can enact if they give themselves the power to do so.
Yeah. The
structure is made where the state does not need to listen to the federal government per se, and they have a lot more power in them. The thing that the federal government has is money. So the way that the federal government controls the states now is says, you do this, or we're going to pull highway funds.
Yeah, the funding.
But it's not structurally, does not have to listen to the federal government.
Right.
It's just a matter of money now.
Yeah.
Structurally, the way that the nation was built gave the states more power than the federal government, with the idea that then the people would have more power than the state. And so that it kind of trickle up instead of being a top-down system.
Right, which is what we were getting away from in early American times. Yes.
It was.
Yeah. So then what you're very passionate about.
Oh, this is about Kennedy.
Subject.
I even forgot
you're passionate about this subject, man, and you and I have talked about this before, because I have like zero passion towards politics. I pay attention like peripherally to some of it, just to have somewhat knowing. But I told you this, I've never voted. I've never registered to vote. I've never even considered going to try to vote for anything, whether it's local or obviously, at the federal level. Just and I'm not so sure that's the best way to think about things, especially the older I get. But shit, man, I got so much in my own life that I'm trying to focus on that, to me, sometimes is about bandwidth. It's about how much energy am I putting towards something, and am I getting a return for that energy? And sometimes I think that people get way caught up in things that they can't really control, is a tough word, but can't really impact as much. So some people, they just want something to hold on to. So you see avid supporters of whatever candidate or whatever idea. They're a part of a team. Blue till whatever, red till dead, whatever it is, the whole team two-party system, sometimes that annoys me. I want the best candidate, hopefully making the best decisions, a decent person making, the country better, the state better, whatever the case may be. But to me, it's always been, politicians are known for a few things. One thing they're known for is not necessarily being truthful, which I have a problem with. Lying, or saying things even if they know that they're not going to be able to deliver on that once they get in said office, right? Lying. Yeah. So that's where I'm more like, okay, I'm not going to even let this accumulate space in my mind. You know, I'm not sure if that's a good or bad way to think about it, back to that subjectivity, but it seemed to have suit me in other aspects of my life, whether it's business or family or my hobbies. I can stay focused on those, you know, but you get me thinking about it more so frequently. And then with kids, you know, that's definitely changed. Like, what's their future going to look like? I never really thought about the local level stuff until COVID. It was like, shit, if I was in California right now, I wouldn't have been able to go to a restaurant. But luckily I'm in Florida and everything's back open. So that made me think about my local people a little more, for sure.
Well, don't let me corrupt you. Corrupt. And I think there's something that we're definitely going to align on. I hate politics. Like, I absolutely hated it. No. And I got swept under maybe this false pretense, which I think is really a trap, where they say, get out there and vote. It's your right. You got to vote. If you don't vote, you're putting America down. That's the biggest BS.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because I meet people now campaigning for the Kennedy campaign. And for anybody who doesn't know, I'm 100% in right now on the Kennedy campaign for the 2024 election. I think personally he's the greatest hope for change. And has a heck of a following. I think we have something like 100,000 volunteers who are all out there beating the streets. They got over 1 million signatures to get him on ballots in the U.S., which has never, for no candidate in American history, has ever had 1 million signatures.
What keeps him from the ballot? What is it? His
lawsuits in the Democratic Party.
Okay, so.
so let me break that.
Yeah. Let me back understand. Like, it's all right.
Technical difficulty.
Malfunction.
See, I'm getting passionate.
You are.
Let me back up and
I didn't even know they came out like that, man. Let's learn something.
I should be like a software tester because I can break everything.
Nice. Give it to Mike. He will product test.
It's tough because my job is literally to fix things, so it makes my job much more difficult. But let's back up real quick to saying the people who have not voted, like, I give you a lot of praise because a lot of it's just this spin cycle that you can get caught up in, and it'll just take your life away.
Sure. And
in a lot of cases, it doesn't seem to matter. You caught yourself, but you said something along the lines of, you know, can you really change anything? And I think in a lot of cases you can't, because of this reason. They all lie.
Right.
So you can vote on what they say, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it.
No.
And in 90% of the cases, 98% of the cases, they're politicians, and they don't. Or they go do the one thing they promised and then do 10 things you didn't want them to do.
Sure. They give you what they ran on to get there, but they have their own 10 things
and
on
not even
agenda.
Sometimes. And so I get the reason why someone would be divorced from politics.
Yeah.
And I applaud you. Like, if you can pull out of that, hoorah, man. There's way more important things I think you can be doing.
Yeah.
And I realized that in the midst of this campaign, which I think is maybe a little late in life. I have a lot of friends who did the same thing. And I used to say, get out there and vote because people have died so you could vote. But if they don't give you a good choice to vote for, and the guy who you can vote for doesn't do any of the stuff he said he's going to do, why the hell would you waste your 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And especially, why would you go on Facebook and alienate friends and get in fights with your neighbor? And then I've seen families at Thanksgiving and Christmas have to sit at different tables because of politics.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm like, that is doing way more harm to the 1% promise that they're actually going to do what you think they're going to do. So if you don't vote, I applaud you. I applaud you especially if you have divorced yourself from politics
for a reason, you know, I guess.
Sure. But for no other reason but time. Like, if it's sucking an hour of every day in 365 days, 365 hours, that's a lot of days 100%. That you've lost. Not to mention the friends and family that you've lost along the way.
For sure.
And I'm like, God, that's so ugly. So if you can divorce yourself from that and focus on what's really important, then hoorah.
Nice.
Like, totally. Now, the reason I jumped into the Kennedy campaign is I've found a lever and a mechanism where I think it's making a difference. And I'm not just voting for Kennedy. I'm campaigning for Kennedy.
Right.
I'm showing people about him. I think some of his ideals are terrific. Some of the ideas he has using blockchain for the voting system so that there's no way you can hack it. Not saying that a bunch of people are hacking it, but there are whole other nations that want us to burn.
Sure.
If all they had to do was go hack it, like they hack everything else, why would they not even try?
I don't think there's zero corruption and hacking in our voting system. Some people think it's, impenetrable and 100% perfect, which is not accurate. To what level of
put me in there? I'll break it.
Is there? Nice.
Yeah.
Give it to Mike. He'll break it. Get some checks and balances on this thing, man. Yeah. But that's cool because sometimes I'm envious of people's passion towards things, and then sometimes I sit back and think about it. It's like, damn, like I don't have those same passions. I have it towards other things, which I'm fortunate for, but yeah, you see families.
You even say you have them to the right place, and so let's dissect that just for a second, because somebody so first off, ignorance is bliss.
Sure.
Right. Like they have something big in their life that they're going for, and it's going to change the world. And I find the irony in that because I kind of think the same way about Kennedy.
Nice.
But nonetheless, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I can fully admit it.
Yeah.
But you have to analyze why you're passionate about something. Have you just been swept up in a movement and you're not entirely sure what the end is, and you're just loving this ride, and you're jumping on and spewing hate at people on Facebook because they're not agreeing, and then you feel like you're in a clan? Because there's a lot of bad in that.
Yeah.
Right? But there's a lot of good in being passionate about something, but your passion has to be rooted in a foundation. And maybe this comes back to what we were talking about raising kids, and I see a lot of patterns and things, but raising kids, you have a foundation, or a biblical story, build your house upon a rock as opposed to on sand, because it'll wither away out from under you. As long as your passion is built on a firm foundation of what you know your values are and what you're striving for, and you're guaranteed that the warlord, I'm going to take this, let's say an Iraqi example, or somewhere in the Middle East, there's a lot of warlords out there, and they recruit plenty of people who are willing to go die for them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I don't know what they think they're fighting for, but they think they're fighting for something.
Yeah.
But when you go look at the psychology of the guy at the top, it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Are they dying for what they think they're dying for?
Right.
Sort of thing. You can say the same thing about the American military and a bunch of other things.
Sure.
Like, it's always something you have to think about.
Yeah.
And so all I'm saying is your passion needs to be founded in this is redundant, founded in a firm foundation. Then I think there's justification for it. Otherwise, it's just a drug that you're swept up in, and you're giving yourself to something that has no sustenance. And so I think politics is that a lot.
Well, I think there's something in human nature that has us looking for that. You see that in whether it's religion or politics or freaking cults that start up. People want something to believe. They want something to follow. They want something, not everyone, but a lot of people for sure. And then it questions, like, sometimes when I'm thinking about myself, it's like why don't I have that? And maybe it is that ignorance is bliss, or I don't know, maybe I haven't found the right thing to get solely behind. I suppose that's what this is a little bit, because I don't know what the future is going to hold in this. And quite frankly, I don't really care. The reason why I'm doing this is to sit down and learn from people like you, and have an avenue to do that. But I do think there is something in people where they want to be a part of a team. You even see that in sports. We're on the same side because we like this or we believe this. And I think it goes back to something you've talked about a lot, which is, and I know Kennedy's big on it too, is community. I think we are all looking for some sort of community of people. Like I feel fortunate because I got like 60 family members that are all really close, and we all hang out regularly.
And chickens and pigs
and chickens and pigs, but that's my community. My community has always been my family. But some people don't have that as an option, due to different circumstances in life. So then as they age and grow older, they start to find those kind of things. And I think that's good. I think there is great benefit in some of those communities that people find themselves in.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I think you deserve more credit than you're giving yourself, because I think your priority is definitely on family from what I've
100%.
gathered to know about you, right? When these people are taking this politics and going to Christmas dinner and divorcing themselves from their family, they've put it on a pedestal that is God.
Yes.
Anything above family, in my opinion, might be God, right? Or something equivalent to that. It's something greater than the thing that is your closest relation. Instead, you put family higher. So don't poo-poo yourself for that. That's amazing. I think more people need to do that. And the scary part is, what if this God you have put up there, metaphorical God, in a lot of people it's politics, or it could be any movement, including cults or whatever, is there sustenance there that is greater sustenance than family? Now, not everybody has great family either.
Exactly.
Right? And so maybe they use this to fill the hole, but there are also people who are literally pulling away from their family because of that. And that's really interesting too. Just the warning is just make sure there's sustenance to it, and you're not following blindly. Right. And at least you know your family. You know all of their flaws.
Yes.
Right. At least you know them.
Especially if they're open to that. That's back to kids too. Is like, when people, don't lie, don't do this. I like to throw it back at them. Like, you never lied. You never did something bad. You never did something when your parents told you not to do it. Like, come on. Like that's sort of my approach with a lot of things, especially my children. In any relationship in my life is like, being honest and transparent. And that's also goes back to why I don't like politicians as much, because I know they're just saying things, maybe they really believe it, but also maybe they're doing it because it'll get them votes, or it'll get them funding, or it'll get them whatever. And I think that's why also
they're doing it to an end, which in itself is somewhat dishonest.
Sure.
Right. So what do you feel about lying? I'm just curious. Like, what do you feel about just in general, I guess, and I'll let you take that where you want to.
I think in my life I have lied to so many people, dude. Like if I sit back and look, and these are the kind of things that keep me up at night sometimes, isn't that
amazing?
Oh yeah. How your body does that. Like, you're not sleeping, you need to think about this.
When you say like lying's poison, you hear that all the time as a kid. I thought I was a great liar, but it's like, that isn't, I get what I want. But then it haunts you.
It later, not even immediately.
Not even in 10 years.
Decades later, dude. I tell people my life is more like, in your 20s, you're one person. In my 30s, I've been a different person. And I'm kind of looking forward to 40s and then 50s to see what that's going to be like from a decades in time standpoint. But lying, I think, is something everyone does. If they say they don't, then they're probably lying right there. I think it's beneficial. It can be in certain environments, but I think I'll speak honestly. I always used them in the past to benefit me. It was a selfish thing to lie, because I think people can be manipulated, and if you are capable of manipulating people, you can do that. So not to go
and it feels like a win in a way,
selfishly. Especially if you I struggle with the term sociopath in some instances, because
have you wondered if you were? I think a lot of people who I meet wonder if they were.
Have you really?
I've had this conversation with a lot of people.
But then I also think that that's a word that was invented, that was a way to describe how people act and operate. But I also do think that there's some reasons why they had to come up with that, because people do have sociopathic characteristics where they only care about themselves and they literally don't care about other people.
I think the falsity, and I'm drifting a little bit, but the falsity of a sociopath is that, and I was in a class asking about this, I remember back in college, you mean a sociopath doesn't get affected by any of this stuff? No, they're just cold. They're genetically in such a way that the lies don't affect them. I think that's bull. I think they've set up really, really big, firm walls, but it'll eventually crumble them down.
You think so?
If not emotionally in themselves, socially for sure. Right. And which affects them emotionally. And so I think that these things are not completely divorced from each other.
That's a good way to look at it. But I don't know, man, with your kids, like, you think, don't ever lie to me. Like, I try to tell them, like, listen, I know you're going to lie to me in some cases, but don't lie to me about the big stuff, because I would rather know and be able to help you or guide you. I'll tell you honestly, and I've started this with my kids early, and my wife sort of didn't agree with this early on. Like, they started to hit you with some big boy, big girl questions, right? And it's like, would you tell them, oh, you're not old enough? Like, I'm not going to tell you now. Like, then that just makes them have this great mystery about it. And then maybe you never get back to it. Then they figure something out when they're 18, 19. And they're like, no, I wish someone would have told me these things.
What was the first lie that you got?
Oh my God.
No, you got from your kids.
From them?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And being selfish here, I have a kid who hasn't, he's...
Honestly, man, I can't think of like a big one off the top of my head. If anything that sticks to mind, you know, we try to communicate with them like they're.
You're very honest too, and so they say lead by example. I think it's 100%.
I'm still trying to figure life out, dude. That's what I tell them all the time. Like when I was a kid, I remember thinking, oh, when the adults know what's going on, when I become an adult, it's going to be evident to me what's going on, which couldn't be further from the truth. No one really knows what's going on. People have a lot of ideas, whether you sit down and think about how we got here, what's our purpose, what's going on in the world, you know, those kind of things. I think there's still a lot of subjectivity and questions towards all that. So I'm very open with my kids about that. Some people think this, but also you can find people that don't think that. You know, they think this, and here's their research and those kind of things. But I don't know. I can't think of a specific lie that they have given either one of us that jumps to mind. I'm sure there's one, but I can't think of it right now.
Here's a fun thing and I'll talk about the Kennedy thing from a lie perspective, because he has a really interesting policy where he was an ex-drug addict, and I'm going to gloss kind of over that. He was a heroin addict for 14 years.
Really?
Yeah. While also being
shooting heroin?
Yeah. While also being district attorney.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
A high-performing heroin addict, if you can call it that. But
a high-functioning drug addict. There's plenty of those.
Yep. At some point in his life, he decided to just tell the truth. Right? It was like every lie crumbled some portion of his foundation to where then he could no longer stand on his own 2 feet.
Definitely.
And he was in a court case as a DA had found. He just gave his portion of. I'm not familiar with I'm going to call it parliamentary procedure or whatever, but he was DA. He gave his spiel. He stepped down. The other guy was giving his spiel. He realized he said something untrue. And he went up, and the next time he was allowed to speak a rebuttal to whatever they said, he said, "Judge, I just wanted to tell you, I lied in the last thing I said."
Oh, came clean about it. And I like that.
And everyone just kind of like looked at him like, I've never heard a lawyer say that before. You know, he just said, you know, I made a mistake. Just wanted to clear the air. And then he continued. Yeah. And to him, it was such a profound moment because they didn't throw him out. It was like such a refreshing scent in the courtroom, right?
If anything, it helped him because it stuck with people like you.
Yeah, and it definitely stuck with him. Yeah. And so that's one of the pillars he points to say, like, this was kind of an experiment of just telling the truth and seeing where life takes me. Jordan Peterson says this in a really funny way. It's like, if you tell the truth, life's not going to be great. It's going to be an adventure for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Right? If you hold yourself to the truth. Yeah. One of Kennedy's policies he's running on, which I think is, a lot of people say, well, that's not possible. I don't know. Interesting thought experiment. He wants to pass legislation that says if any government official is caught lying, they're going to be fired.
I like that.
Like, he is for full transparency. Yeah. And using different technologies to really make sure the budgets are transparent. The government's not spending $10,000 for a toilet seat, which has happened. Yeah. Per toilet seat. Jesus. But nobody has visibility into it. Yeah. So he's really interested in opening that up. Now it becomes, well, you can make a case that top secret stuff should remain top secret, and I think he'll agree with you there too. Yeah.
Well, a lot of Kennedys, weren't they against some of the top secret organizations that are around? You know, I think because I do think there's a benefit to them. You know,
there are some books that claim that the Kennedys were very against them, and they were very against the Kennedys.
There's some people that claim that's why a couple of them got murdered. You know, if you will, and that's a whole nother subject that people have debated about since they've happened. You know, and that's another one that also keeps me like away from a lot of that stuff. Is like, these people, there's so much money, so much going on, and then the fact that I think there's a lot of politicians that have body bags, if you will, bodies in the closet that they discuss.
Metaphorically or not.
Or not. Yeah. It's, I guess we'll never know. Well,
we know all about that in history.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you read the history of almost any country, you find out a lot about this stuff.
For sure.
And then you instantly go, well, not here.
Huh. Yeah, that can't happen in America.
Like, the second you say that, like, maybe, but take a step back and, like, are we that special?
We are definitely the fastest rising country to the top position, whether you think about economically or socially or whatever. But damn, man, we have not been around very long. China's been around much longer than us. A lot of countries in Europe have been around much longer than us. And every top position in, history eventually changes. You can picture people back in Rome or wherever when they were at the top, like, oh, this is going to be like this forever. And I think people think that about America, like things are the way they are, that we're always going to be this way. But the older I get, I'm not so sure that's the case. I think and
I think we're maybe some statistics, don't quote me on this, but it's the longest standing constitution that has ever been consistently alive without falling. So we are at the precipice of a crumble from that statistical standpoint. We also don't have all the history, right? Like we claim we know history. We're picking up fragments out of sand and then trying to guess the best we can.
I didn't know about like the fires of that building in, the Church of Alexandria or something, where a lot of the historical documents were all destroyed.
Of the history.
Dude,
all of the history.
I didn't know about that until like 5 years ago, like, oh shit. So a lot of things I think are guesswork, educated guesses. There are some definite truths in the world, but I think there's a lot more subjectivity and differences of opinions than I would have considered in my 20s or definitely in my teens, man. I'm like, 100%. I think the internet's brought that on, exposure to different kinds of people. But I don't know where. So
what do you think about the whole Alexandria Library? Because they didn't have a printing press, so they couldn't like say, "Oh, this is a book. Let's make a copy."
Yeah.
Instead, they explored the whole world, finding all the most interesting things that are happening around the entire globe, put it in a single place, and it just happened to burn. What a crime! Like,
what a crime! But I think back then, people could kind of do a lot of things. I think, like your name is, the phrase is like, you're going to be stripped from the history books. They could have written whatever they wanted. There's stuff in history books that in our lifetime that they've been like, wait, this isn't exactly how it went down. So people could write things, especially back then. Writing is still relatively new, I think, in humans, just in the grand scheme of humans. But I think people could have wrote down what they wanted to be remembered, not necessarily how it actually
100%.
went.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. So that's actually, okay, so now we're going to, maybe this is the controversial part, which I never thought that this would be what we, I wonder a lot about that. And I wonder a lot about that for a number of reasons. Number one, my family is storyteller family. If you caught a fish that was this big, it was actually this big, and you caught two fish this big, right? It's like how you tell the story can exaggerate the truth. It's still the truth, but you're kind of exaggerating. It's like,
definitely.
We can tell stories. We can make a pretty mundane thing seem pretty entertaining.
For sure.
And then because of that, I've always thought, well, this has been happening forever. It may be. But I also find a lot of really interesting phenomenon of writings that they found that are 300 years apart, which are how many generations of people?
Yeah.
You're talking 30 generations of people.
Yeah.
And they're damn near word for word. And so did it happen? For sure. Like, did kings write, the self-centric kings find the guy who would write the best thing? For sure.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of evidence that says that didn't happen. And I can't come up with a good reason why that didn't happen. Like, did they hold themselves to different standards with truth? Like, even oral stories that have gone on for 1,000 or 1,500 years.
No.
And then they turn out to be true when everyone poo-pooed them for, mythology or something like that. It's fascinating. How does the truth stay intact not over decades, but pretty much millennia. I don't have an answer for that. So I don't know the reason, but I found enough cases where the story seems to be the same story.
No.
And if it was my family, by the time it gets from my uncle to my dad to me, it's not even a fishing story anymore. It's a hunting story.
Classic telephone, right?
Exactly.
Classic
And
telephone.
that's the telephone game, by the way, as a kid, is a beautiful metaphor. And I've worked with a lot of people in other countries, and they never learn that. Which is fascinating. That's a hell of a concept. That one of the things in the foundation of being a child here in the United States is you learn that.
Yeah.
But then again, why? How are there? And I don't have an answer to this, but how are there stories that have survived for 1,000 years that are damn near verbatim, or at least have even kernels of truth in there? It's wild.
It is wild. Yeah.
I can't grasp that, and maybe that's just because of the culture we live in. I don't know.
Yeah. That is one of my favorite phrases for people to say. I don't know. Because when people have such certainty towards something, like I'm like, okay, maybe, that sounds great. And like, I love when people are, I don't know, this is what I think in my, experience, my knowledge, my research, whatever. But I love that phrase, man. You've said it a few times today already. Like, I don't know. And I say that to my kids regularly, especially as they get older and keep asking different things. Like, I don't know. Here's what I think. Here's what people think. Back to that statement.
Well, especially to these conversations, I think it's really important, because I think the reason why we have such great conversations is I'm looking for answers. I'm not looking for confirmation that what I've said is true.
Sure.
If I come up with a brand new idea, I might vet it with you.
Yeah.
Right. Just to see if you can poke a hole in it.
Yeah.
Right. Because that'll make it stand on its own a little bit more. But in reality, I love conversations and I love people because they can help me find the answer to the thing I don't know. And I'm constantly curious. I think that's what characterizes me as still holding on to my youth a little bit.
Yeah.
And being kid-like in a way. Because I'm curious to explore what's under that rock, what's under this rock. And this is the precipice of as far as I've been able to explore in this area. And so why not bring it up and see
for sure.
see what somebody else can add to it, right?
I love when people are like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. Those are some of the first things I like to talk about with people because I'm like you. I'm this, and I don't know if there's ever truths that you're actually going to find. I'm sort of, maybe there's some basic,
there are
like
definitely
a foundation.
Falsities.
Oh, for sure.
And there are more true things.
Yeah. I just think you got to find a balance between that searching, though, and also existing. Because I think there is a way that sometimes you get too caught up in trying to understand different aspects of life or humanity or politics or religion or what happens when you die, or are there really purposes? Is there a plan for everything? Like, you can drive yourself to the point to where you stop living. And I think that becomes what a lot of religions, even some of the older ones before Christianity, there was this trying to get people to live now in the present moment, which I think is very challenging, especially in today's day and age, because either people are thinking so much about the future, right? Or they're thinking so much about the past, which either you don't really have a lot of control over. Obviously, you can't change the past. Maybe you can learn from it. You definitely don't have control over the future. You can have plans and things that you want to accomplish, but I think people, for as long as there's been people, have tried to figure out how to live presently, how to live now. But that's where I think things like being in nature and being connected to the ocean or the woods or whatever help you stay focused on what's right in front of you right now.
I wonder if that's a good... I just had this thought right now.
Yeah.
Let me know if you agree, but I wonder if that's a utility of religion. And so a lot of people... And I used to be one of these. I was a guy in college education, all in physics and math. And it's like, you found an answer. There was not... engineers can find close answers, and that's fine.
Sure.
In physics, you had to find answers,
right?
And it was the answer. Yeah. And unless you found the answer, your thing wasn't more true or less true,
right?
So it took me a while to dissect that. But there are a lot of people out there, in my experience in the last 10 years, who experience anxiety unless they have the answer. And so maybe that's the utility of religion for a lot of people, is it gives them an answer and then they can close that box and put it away, and then they can be in the present again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're constantly anxious about the answer and constantly searching about it, and that destroys their life.
No.
How ubiquitous do you think that is in the population versus people who can quest for the answer and never find it and be okay with that?
I think it's more likely, and it's higher percentages of people are probably leaning more in towards the religious side of it, whether it's, thinking about what happens when you die or where you go, which is one of my favorite questions to ask people, which I'll save that one for you. But I do think I used to be where I'm like, there's no way God's real. There's no way someone created all of this. And I went to Lutheran school, so I used to debate, theology teachers, and I remember getting in trouble because I'm like, this doesn't add up for me. Like what you're saying, the reasons for this or why the Bible doesn't talk about things like dinosaurs, those kind of things. Like, wait, we all came from two people? Like, what about incest? Like, I used to ask these kind of questions, and then they would go to the principal. I remember having serious debates with theology teachers about things that I just thought didn't make sense. But as I get older, what you just said struck with me, because I do think closing that chapter is important. If you feel, I'm sometimes
you can do that really well, by the way, for your example of that with politics.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have the answer, but you're just like, not worth the time.
Not worth the time.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I do like to hear what people think about it. Same thing with religion. I love to hear people talk about Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, stuff that's been around and people have been following for a long time. But I do think religion gives people that sense of community too, that a lot are looking for. You see that a lot in Christian churches, Lutheran churches, Baptists, that stuff like that. But I don't know, man. What do you think happens when you die? What's your
thought? Have an answer to this.
Okay.
Now, it's not a fully formed answer.
Okay.
God, I don't know if you're ready for this.
Oh, come on, man. Hit me.
So let me preface it this way. I've experienced some funny things in the world that don't seem miracles, you could call them.
Okay.
Has there been anything in your life that you've seen that was like, what?
There's only one thing in my life that I think about that I can't explain.
Okay.
Yeah. And so surfing, actually take that back. We were surfing and then we were out just swimming on a sandbar. Me, my son, and my daughter, and they were little. So treading water out to the sandbar. My daughter was probably 5, so that would have put my son at around 7, somewhere, just to give you some ages. So they're comfortable swimming, but we're out on a second sandbar up in Daytona Beach.
And you can stand.
I'm standing, yeah, but there's a long trough in between. And my wife is not the best swimmer. She grew up with a pool, grew up in Florida. It's a long story, but not the best swimmer. So something in her mind, she decides she wants to swim out to us at the sandbar, which she never does. No floats, no boards, no nothing. So I'm standing there looking out at the ocean with the kids, holding them on 2 arms, and my daughter goes, Mom's coming, what, out to the sandbar? So I turn and look, and she's halfway through one sandbar to the next, and the look on her face is panic, dude. She is like, I need help. I'm not going to make it. And I'm like, I can't leave the kids out here and come and get you. So I take my son, swim, daughter, I'm going to hold you. We're going to get to her and try to get her to the sandbar. She classic what people do in those situations. She panics, grabs a hold of everybody, takes me and my 4 or 5-year-old daughter at the time under. And right as I go to take a deep breath, I suck in all this water because I'm like, I'm going down. I got to figure this out. And then next thing I know, we're on the beach. Dude, I'm talking 80 yards. Somehow, I do remember.
On dry land?
On dry land. No, all the way in on the shore. And I'm coughing, daughter's crying, wife is coughing. All I remember is my feet touching the bottom, pushing, and then somehow we went 80 to 90 yards through the break and everything, and got everybody back to shore. And in my mind, it's a blank spot. I have no idea how we did that. So that's the only thing I can't explain in my life. It's a scary one, man. It's a scary one. Just, obviously the ocean has a lot of people lose their lives in the ocean all the time. A couple months back, 6 people died just right out here in Florida, but that was a scary one. That's one that hits me at night. I have no idea what happened, but that's the only one that comes to mind.
I'll ask you how you cope with that later, but
marijuana.
Yeah. I think a lot of people run away from open doors.
I do not.
But yeah, fair enough. So a lot of people, this happens with moms who lift up cars off of their kids and things like that.
Yeah.
well, that wasn't God. That's obviously chemistry. And then they'll go explain why. Maybe both are true. Maybe God made you with a lever to pull and somehow can pull you out of it. With your story, it's like, and it's probably the same question you have, is what the hell happened in between?
Yeah.
I couldn't support my wife and my kid at the same time.
Yeah.
I went under. So how did I not go under?
Yeah.
Like, how did I recover from that?
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure that's the answer you'd love to know.
Yeah.
But
my sister goes,
something
maybe
miraculous.
my sister goes, maybe my son pulled us all in. I'm like, no, that did not happen.
I think you stand on that one. I love that.
I like that. Like, nope.
I grew up just thinking, I'll do that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So what happens, man? You said you know what happens when you die.
Yeah. So my experience with God, and I'm a Christian.
Okay.
But I also have issues with religion in the aspect that you're trusting a person rather than trusting God. So I'll tell you one story prior, and then I'll tell you about my mother and getting some glimpse into the afterlife, which shattered me because it wasn't what I expected at all. So I'm sitting up here in First Baptist Merritt Island. I'm a teenager, went from a mission trip. I came back all on fire of God, and have a bunch of kids hanging around, all praising Jesus. You get swept.
Nice.
Right? It felt good. You weren't unsure of anything. You knew. And then it always wrecks. Like, I was never baptized as a child. My parents decided not to baptize me because if you're going to be baptized, it should be your decision because it's your proclamation.
I like that.
And all of that. And it's like, that's a battle between you and God to figure out when to do that. But as a teenager, I was like, damn it, that's embarrassing. Why didn't they just baptize me as a kid? Right.
Oh, you wished that you had
just done it when you were a kid. Then I can get it over with, and then I wouldn't have the burden wouldn't have to be on me, man.
Right? I see.
Now the burden's on me. It's a heavy burden. Yes. We really know what's right.
I get it. Yeah.
And so I came back, and then I made this for sure blanket statement that I'm not going to get baptized now because, and I dissect it now and it sounds stupid. It was just embarrassing. Like, why would I do that? Did
you wonder what others would think about it, or like what was it that
I don't even think it even went that deep.
Okay.
Like I struggle with it now because, like you said, when you get older, you change as a human being. I think I became a really rounded human being at 25, and my 25-year-old plus me is looking back at that. I'm like, did I? How deep did I go in my argument to decide that? And it might have just. And I wasn't someone who got embarrassed by things either, which is really interesting to me. But I just made a decision. Yeah. And so then we go on. I'm in church. First Baptist. Troy Dobbs, I think, was the pastor at the time. Maybe Titus had said they were going to do an ocean baptism. Right. And this was a few months after our mission trip. And I had really wished I was baptized. Like, I wanted to be baptized. It just wasn't me that was going to do it. Right. And so, I know, dumb. So he says this ocean baptism, and the thought in my head was, man, that would be cool if I only wanted to get baptized. Like, it was I put it off so much that, like, I knew I didn't even want to, so it wasn't really an option. And then they kept talking about it. I'm like, you know what's better? Instead of owning this, I'll put it on the Lord. Oh, that's good. Don't ever do that.
It's a classic diversion tactic.
And so this is where I experienced the Lord. So I sit down and I pray. I'm in they're giving the thing. I'm like, well, if the Lord really wants me to get baptized, I believe the Lord's real. If he really wants me to get baptized, he'll let me know. So I bow my head. I pray to the Lord. Lord, if this is the really time, give me a sign. I'll answer your sign. Just give me a sign.
Yeah.
Be very cautious when you ever pray that.
Okay.
And I found the Lord has a great sense of humor as well.
Nice.
So I finished my prayer. I'm like, not on my back anymore. Right? Real pussy thing. And 45 seconds later, I'm sitting there. Drip. Drip. Drip.
What?
I look up. First Baptist Maryland's a big fucking church. Yeah. I look up at and the roof starts leaking on my head. And I look to my right. No one over there is getting leaked on. I look to my left. no one over there is getting leaked on. I look up and I just bust out laughing. You'd be an imbecile if you didn't go get baptized after that.
Okay.
So I'm like 45 seconds after I say the prayer, like, give me a sign, I'll go do it.
You got water hitting you in the head.
I'd get struck by lightning. I'd be dead. Like, I don't know what would happen. Yeah. But when you get like an answer, like a brick in the back of the head.
Sure.
If you don't do it, that's on you, man. And again, I'm all about diverting things. Nothing's going to be on me. So I'm like, I just started bursting out laughing. A few people turned around to like look at me, and I'm just like, do you see this? And nobody knows what's going on. And I got baptized. I went to the ocean, Titus Green baptized me.
Dang.
And I got baptized. I'm like, well, you're real. Thanks for being so damn blatant with me, because I needed it. Right? Yeah. And so I've experienced a number of things like this, and you can calculate the coincidence. I mean, I'm a physics guy. We calculate the coincidence of life spontaneously combusting.
Oh, dude, people can poke holes in everything, man. Yeah.
This is so unlikely to happen. The timing and all of that. It's stupid. Yeah.
What was the water coming from? Do you remember?
A leak in the roof.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
At least I didn't go find out.
I
probably should have.
That was my first thought.
That was my sign. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, all faith from here.
Yes, that's awesome. But has that served you well in your life, you think? Having that faith, knowing what happens then, obviously, has that served you well, that chapter is closed in your mind? Because I do think about this, like, shit, like maybe certain religions are right. Maybe you get to do it again. Maybe you go some of the, like the string theory and some of the stuff they're coming up with now, like, are we doing this somewhere else? Do you go there?
If we get into quantum mechanics, this is going to be fun.
Oh my God, man. Yeah, we might have to save that for a future.
Has it served me in life? Yes, but it's not a closed door for me.
Okay.
Like, at all.
Yeah.
Like,
I like that.
My takeaway from that is, okay, I got touched by the real thing. No. All these guys are just talking about that thing. And they're trying their best, but they're all humans. I'm not saying Christianity has it 100% right.
Right.
I approach all of that with skepticism. Every book that was written, I'm not a big fan of Paul. I'm not even sure if he was legit, in my opinion. Yeah. But I know that thing's real.
No.
And so then back to what happens.
You're talking about the Apostle Paul when you mentioned Paul?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Is he the one that denied Jesus? That was
he
Peter.
Was, but then he Peter. Also wasn't really walking around with him at all. He apparently he prosecuted Christians all the time, and then at some point after Jesus died, Jesus came back, talked to all of his close apostles. Yeah. They all wrote books, and then happened to just pop up to Paul 100 miles away, and Paul's like, I've seen Jesus, and then wrote all the books in the Bible.
Okay.
And I don't know, he seems a little too ambitious.
Okay. I'm not as educated in that. I think it was Peter. Which one did they say? Does it say that Jesus told him, even you would deny me? Was that Peter or is that Paul? Do you remember?
It wasn't Paul. It was Paul had never talked to Jesus. Okay. There's no documented account except for Paul that Paul talked to Jesus.
Okay. I remember getting to the principal for this one. I said, okay, so let me get this straight.
Who was the denier?
I think it's Peter. I'm pretty sure it's Peter. But either way, one of the apostles, Jesus said to him, even you are going to, and he's like, no, Jesus, I would never do this, right? We could look it up, but
we almost should. But I feel like if there's anything we misquote, this is probably the thing we shouldn't.
Dude, I am. We misquote things on here all the time. It just goes on the internet. No big deal. Everything on the internet is true. Yes. Yes. But I struggled with that one because I was like, let me get this straight. This guy that did travel with him saw him do these miracles that are documented in these books and in these stories that have lasted for forever, right? And I'm like, and he tells him, you're going to deny me. I'm the Son of God. You've seen me do all these things. So then they see him get murdered, and then he comes back. And that's not enough and he told you you're going to do this. That's not enough for you to still be like, hey.
I'll challenge you this way.
Okay.
This was prior to the resurrection. This is when he was being crucified. So everyone was out there watching Jesus being crucified.
Right.
Somebody said something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, but, hey, didn't you used to hang out with him?
And they're like, no, I don't know that guy.
Yeah. And so you said that you've lied.
No.
And that maybe in the past you were a liar.
Yeah.
you can't empathize with that situation of seeing somebody being persecuted and people throwing things at them and then saying, didn't you hang out with that guy?
But not if I truly saw this guy do these miracles and then believe that he's the son of the creator.
I don't even know
everything.
if they've came to that conclusion yet.
That's a fair point. Maybe
everything. They knew he was a pretty extraordinary person.
But didn't they tell Jesus that he was the Son of God from birth? Because he came from the Virgin Mary, right?
Well, I don't know a mother who doesn't say that about their kid.
that they're the Son of God? Like, what?
Well, you know what I mean, though, right? Like,
my mother never said that to me.
I don't think... Yeah, I mean, this is a good question.
Yeah.
From what I gather... Jesus wasn't ever, according to the scripture, and again, rewritings and all this other stuff, but he was never blatant about it.
Okay.
And there was always doubt in the people who were following him. I mean, you think about walking on the water in the storm, and he was on a boat, and the huge storm came in, he was sleeping. They woke him up, how are you going to let us sink? And then he comes out and walks on water, and it's like, whoa, dude, you're way powerful. Who are you?
Yeah.
And I think that they were struggling with trying to figure out who Jesus is.
Yeah.
He's a powerful somebody.
Yeah.
But was he the Son of God? Wasn't, at least from the beginning of them following him, was not. They didn't just say, "Oh, welcome to Jesus. Yes. He is the Son of God."
Yes.
There wasn't the church. There wasn't anything. He was just this guy out there rambling and doing some freaking amazing
flipping
things.
tables over and
And a lot of people, conspiracy theorist, right? Like or the equivalent to that, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sure they all had skepticism to some degree.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's a good way to look at it. You know, I think at that point in my life, I was looking for so much certainty.
Yes.
And there was things that
comes back to the human nature of certainty.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's more important for children than for adults. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Well, man, we could sit here and go
no. I gotta say the afterlife story.
Okay. Yeah.
This is pretty profound and probably one of the more recent things that I had. So we had the storage bin in Mississippi from when my dad went to school there. So we left when I was 10. About a year and a half ago, we went to go unload that storage bin. He kept it there, and it was amazing. It was like a time capsule of my childhood. I had toys, I remember it. I had everything.
Cool, man. I love nostalgia. That's one of my favorite feelings. Yeah,
go buy a storage bin and just put things in it and don't open it for 20 years.
Nice.
It'll be amazing for your children. Anyway, my mom had a Ford Falcon, a 67 Ford Falcon in there. And one of our missions was to get everything, but also bring that Falcon back. And then we're eventually going to restore it. So my mother's maiden name is Mosley. Okay. I mean, maybe a common name, but have you ever met a Mosley?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay, so not a super common, it's not a Johnson or anything like that.
Right.
So we get to the hotel, and we're driving to the storage bin, blah, 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 blah. We see, maybe entering town, we see a Mosley Street. So, okay, cool, Mosley Street. That's kind of cute. Yeah. We're going to go get my mom's thing. My mother passed away when I was in high school.
Oh, dang.
So she's passed away like 10, 12 years ago, something like this. 20, maybe, probably about 12, 13 years ago. So we see the Mosley Street. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Yeah, I didn't say anything. And then see something else that says Mosley on it. And then we get in the elevator to the hotel that we were staying in Starkville. And the little signature of who investigated the elevator to say it was approved for maintenance reasons. Blah, 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 Mosley.
Really?
And so now I got 3 of them in a day. And so I'm like, I mentioned it to my dad. I'm like, hey, Mosley, that's the 3rd one we saw. You remember that street? Blah, 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 blah. And then I just let it go because there are coincidences in life.
Sure.
Right. But for me, I'd seen enough of those, such as the baptism calling that I had, that I'm like, okay, there might be some God in here or something like this. So we go on. I think I saw one more, which I'm like, okay, starting to smell like God to me. Where's the humor yet? Right? Because he always answers things in really funny ways for me.
Nice.
So we're driving back. We got the Falcon. This is a whole other story. We'll talk about it another time. But we got the Falcon on U-Haul or on the Jeep. Probably drove it back with the Jeep, yeah. So I'm pulling it. No, we had a U-Haul. Yeah, we had a U-Haul. We got a U-Haul. So I'm pulling it on a U-Haul. And then I'm driving down the road. And normally I pray to God. And I think Catholics are silly for praying to saints because there's nothing. This was my prior thought. This is no longer a thought.
Okay.
So I thought it was silly because there's nothing in the Bible that says that when you die, you just sit up there and answer prayers. Like, no matter how good you are, you're not just sitting there waiting to dabble with the world again. I just figured, heaven, you got better things to do up there.
Sure.
Just soak in all the glory. Well, I don't know what it is, but the idea of praying to a saint, I thought was very comforting for a human. The idea of they're up there watching you. Your grandma is up there watching you. I'm like, yeah, that's not biblical, though. Very comforting.
Sure.
Not biblical, so I threw it out. So my wife grew up Catholic, so she prays to saints. If you lose something, there's a saint you pray to help find it. She always freaking finds it. Oh, yes. And she always finds it.
Okay.
But anyway, that was the one evidence I had. But I'm like, that's still stupid. Like, you're just finding stuff. You're just good at finding stuff. So I said a prayer to my mother, which I don't think I've ever prayed to my mom. In my opinion, she was dead. She's in heaven or not, but is not here to answer prayers. If you want to talk to somebody, talk to God.
Right.
I always pray to God for an answer. And this is the one time I prayed to my mother, saying something along the lines of, I've seen all the signs. I mean, I get it. But it would be, it's pretty obvious. I know you're up there somewhere. But it would be really great if you gave me a really big sign. Again, not for me. And God, maybe this is a pattern. Maybe I do this a lot. I'm putting this on somebody else. Uh-oh. Discovery is.
It's a therapy session in here, too.
Yeah. So I'm like, give me a really big sign. Not for me. Just so my dad will kind of believe it. Because I kind of think you're up there. And then I realized I didn't think as much as I thought I did, right? I wasn't very certain, but it was coincidental that I saw a bunch of Mosleys. I'm like, maybe it's a sign. Give me a really big sign. Just so my dad could really be touched by your presence and prove to me that you're up there. Like, I get you're up there, but also it'd be really nice to know. And then I ended my prayer, and I kept driving my U-Haul. About 35 to 45 minutes later, I'm driving down the road, and there's a giant billboard, all yellow, with one word on it. It was on the left side of the highway. I'm driving on the right side.
Tell me it's Mosley.
It was Mosley.
Really?
In giant fucking letters.
Damn.
And then in the bottom right, there's really small letters like something consulting or something. And you can actually see these. You can go see these signs. I believe from here to Orlando, if not from Orlando to Tampa. Okay, they're still up there. There's a number of them.
What are they?
Just some consulting company called Mosley Consulting.
Okay,
but at the time I'd never seen them. Right.
Yeah.
And so I said this prayer, and then I look up, and it's literally nothing but a yellow sign that said Mosley. A giant yellow sign. That said Mosley. So, as always happens, whenever I ask God for an answer, he gives it to me. I just start laughing because it's fucking hilarious.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Then I started crying and talking to my mom, introducing her to my son.
Nice.
And, you could say I spin out of control a little bit there, but I don't know a better way to fucking I asked for a sign. I got a physical sign, and not a sign that had like Mosley Inn on it hidden. It was
right there.
God he throws bricks at the back of my head. That's the best way I can describe the signs I get. And maybe I'm special. Otherwise, I just anybody who's out there, I say ask for a sign and see if it's as hilarious as the ones I get.
I've done that, man. Listen, especially when I was younger, I'd be like, just tell me. Why does there have to be, and that was another one I struggled with in school. You just got to believe. You got to have faith.
And they say, it's faith.
So you got to have faith, right? Just believe. I'm like, wouldn't it be simpler if you just knew, wouldn't it be simpler if it was just evident? And I get the idea of, the counter argument would be, well, then, they want you to have free will, God wants you to have free will, those kind of things. I'm like,
I think that almost gets too intellectual. Like you
think so?
Yeah, because I think in order to make that claim, you have to pretend to think what God was thinking. And I think you've missed the mark. Yeah,
true.
And so, like, maybe. Yeah. But that's a big maybe. Yeah. Don't take that one to the bank. Right. In my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can remember. I don't recall a specific instance where I'd just be like, just give me a sign. What my real fear was my family wasn't religious. My parents, not religious. They sent us to private schools, Lutheran schools, because they didn't want us to go. There were some F-rated public schools at the time in our area. Sure. And, they wanted us to have a better education, was the idea.
So you were worried about them?
That's what it was. Yeah. Like, what they're telling me is people that don't believe are going to go to hell, right? My parents don't believe in this. I don't want them to go to hell. So I was looking for a sign to be able to give to them so we all could go to heaven. But never could sit there
stupidly blatant as mine.
Or hitting the back of the head with a brick, like you said. I would love to have something like that to be like, okay, this is the certainty I was looking for. But I don't know. To this day, I'm agnostic towards it. Yeah. I don't know.
That comes to the question, and I've struggled with this, why do I get these stupidly obvious signs? And the best question, the best answer I had is I asked, because it's the only explanation I come, and I don't ask. I stare very far away from ever asking for an answer. It's terrifying. And most of the time, it's not the answer I want to hear.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And then back to the question of your afterlife, and this also poses a question between heaven and hell and purgatory and all of the concepts that are floated to you through religion.
Yeah.
After 12 years of her dying, she somehow has a hand in this whole thing. She somehow can hear you or hear me and can somehow manipulate the world in such a way to show a giant Mosley sign.
Nice. Oh.
Now, it does bring up questions well, maybe when you go to heaven, you're not here. And then where is she at? I don't know. Yeah. But you asked about the afterlife. And so the only thing I know for sure is that somehow after you die, you're not completely gone from this place. And you still can interact with it and you have some play in it. That's the only thing I know to a 99.9% certainty. I don't know a lot about God. I don't know a lot about heaven. I know what people tell you about them. The only thing I know for sure is that after you're dead, you're not gone. And maybe praying to saints actually has some validity.
Okay, it's for finding things.
All I'm saying is nice. People who die seen from that experience have some role in this world.
Okay.
Which is freaking fascinating because I don't think that that's biblical.
Yeah, to the way I try to describe it to the kids again, and the people that want to ask that question to me about what I think, I don't know, right? But what I do know, what I'm pretty certain of, is this is real. Then you start to go into simulation theory.
That's the next podcast. That's where I come into quantum mechanics. By the way, I'll tie that to quantum mechanics.
Nice. Next time we chat. We'll save simulation theory for that. But it is pretty evident to me that each day, it's questionable what happens when you're sleeping, but each day
it's kind of wild.
It is kind of wild. You just shut off for 6 to 10 hours at a night, depending.
Imaginary world.
But you come back to the same. But I think you can make impacts on this current situation. Yes. You can try to be more present. You can try to not care as much about certain aspects of the world and things you can't control. And to me, that always relates back to obviously my hobbies, my family, and trying to figure out how to be as present and locked in as possible and be committed to the family, to your hobbies, to what you want to learn and grow on. To me, that is almost a certainty that I could get up right now, walk out that door and do whatever,
and whatever you've done will be here tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yes.
Until it's not, if it's people or if it's items, and life is long and it's short at the same time, and hopefully we all get to go 80, 90, 100 years and be happy and healthy, and that's the search, man.
I want to die to a fight with a bear or something like that.
Really? You want to go out that way?
Oh, 100%.
At what age? How old do you want to be fighting with?
Older than now.
I would hope, man.
That wasn't always the case, but
you want your legend to...
I want my son to be able to be honest, I want my son to be capable enough to take on the world, but then have this archetype of a hero that he knew that went out with such a bang that it drives him to go forward.
I get that. I think there is something to people that come out of adversity, whether it's my dad died young, my mother died when I was in high school. I think there's a certain sense of, I don't know, it's a different life, for people that go through things like that, or are able to escape, whether it's poverty or certain aspects, or get away from things that have happened to them. But I would much rather be there than to die.
But you
young.
won't ever. Oh, die young. Yeah.
I
might be the 69-year-old guy who's trying to jiu-jitsu the bear. Yeah. And it's going to be a black bear because I got to have a chance of winning.
Yeah, a grizz or a polar bear. No, not happening. But a black bear.
A black bear, I think you get a small 180 pounds. We're comparable.
It's funny. I think about animals like that regularly. Yeah. Like, even if you had to, choke out a dog, something running in the woods or something, and come up, be like, God damn, or a coyote or something. Like,
I think about that when walking my son, because there's some 100%. Big Rottweiler sort of dogs and pit bull, giant dogs. Like, wolf dogs. How do I not? Yeah. Like, how do I prevent that from happening? That's as a guy. Yeah. And I think that's the appropriate role. Yeah. You play those scenarios in your head.
But I also think about living as long as I can. I also consider...
Why?
Mostly because I want to see them get old. I want to see them have families of their own. I want to be a grandfather someday. I want... Is
it a selfish reason or a selfish 100%,
reason? Dude. Mostly everything I do is selfish reasons. I think...
That's not true. That's not true. There's a selfless aspect to them. There's a selfish aspect to them. But
I think that's what's progressed people for a really long time, is to be a little selfish. And we talk about this a lot on here. I think people shy away from being selfish. Mm-hmm. In some cases, especially vocally, or communicating that, like, hey, I'm being selfish right now. But I know 100% a lot of things I do is selfish.
So yeah. Oh God. Okay. So we'll listen to the last thing, and then we can wrap this up.
I got to see the shark, dude.
Should we do that?
Well, go with this, then let's see the shark. I've been dying to see that, man. Yeah.
So the selfish thing as a father, it's how do you let your kid get hurt?
No.
Preventing from getting hurt is the selfish thing in my mind, because then you don't have to go through the pain of seeing them suffer.
Right.
But it's selfless to let them get hurt because they're going to be better. Are you saying that it's selfish in the sense that you can be proud later? Like, how is that selfish? And I guess you could make a claim.
Yeah.
But that's like maybe the most selfless aspect of being a father, is to let your child get hurt.
Yeah.
Knowing that that's going to be better for them and not better for you.
Which maybe makes it better for you in the long run.
I kind of stumbled into that. Maybe. But what's the motivate? Yeah. So for me, I think the motivating factor is to make sure that they're fucking the best.
Yeah. I think the goal of children, and I never thought about having children until we found out we were having one, right? Nice. We were married. It wasn't part of the plan. It wasn't an accident to a degree. And I would tell my son this, like, we weren't planning on it, but we were married.
And I think that's almost how it should be. Me and my wife went into it the same way. We're just like, we'd have a lot of fun. Yeah. At some point, a kid might pop out.
Yes, exactly. But and that changes. Each day changes what you're focusing on. But I think for me, it's always like, you kind of want them to have some knowledge that you've gained maybe a little bit earlier. That's been the aspect for me. And my sister and I talk about this sometimes too, is like when my daughter gets all upset about somebody in elementary school that they're not friends anymore. I'm like, you know how many people I still talk to from elementary school? Zero. And I don't want to shatter people's worlds and make them think that their interactions now aren't important, but time goes on, and you're grasp of time when you're young is different than when you're 20, when you're 30. You know, we talked about time a few times here.
I miss it when a week sounded like a year.
Yeah, man. And now years are just, kids make that big
scary.
Time just flies. But I've always thought of time as the most valuable commodity, because you don't know how much you have. You know how many hours are in a day, right? To an extent, and it could all be taken away, and things could change. Stuff could happen. Stuff does happen. You know, you've seen that firsthand in your life. But I don't know. You want them to be a little bit better off than you. You know, in terms of what they're exposed to, what they can acquire in their lives. You know, I think there is something to some adversity. You don't just want to give them everything. You know, a lot of us know, you know, people with silver spoons or spoiled rich kids. There's a reason why you say that about people, because it sometimes takes them a little while to figure the world out. But I don't know. You know, kids are an interesting experiment in life, and it's one that not everybody should do. I do believe that also. I think you know, I respect people that are like, you know, they're career focused versus family focused or whatever. But for me, it's the only thing that's ever made sense, honestly, is that I need to spend time with them. So then when they're adults, you know, we were there, man.
And also, how do you discover love? Yeah. Which gets into another question we'll talk in the next one. Like, how do you compare your wife's love versus your child's love? Because that's dangerous territory.
But a good
that's
topic,
a good thing to talk about. But discovering love in that way, and also maybe it shines light onto the love you have for your wife, because I know it did for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I fell way more in love with my wife on such a deeper level after we had kids.
Definitely.
It has you discover love. I think that in itself is a pillar.
It was huge, man.
Of a life.
And that took even a few years of kids to feel like,
really?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I wish I had it instantly when I saw them. Like I
hear those stories.
Yeah. Yeah. But it took, man, those early years, you know, you got a 2-year-old, dude. Those early years, it's easy to stay consumed in work. Like, oh, I got to make money, so I got to be gone.
Yeah.
You know, someone else got to deal with this. And that was but then I realized early that, like, that's what I was doing. You know, I'm using work or the idea of I got to make money because it's challenging to be here when they're developing and, you know, up at night and learning how to go to the bathroom and those kind of things. So that's where the love for my wife really started to, you know, come out, as well as like, damn, like the sacrifices she's making, and like even just the sacrifices of being pregnant, dude. Like, imagine going through that. You know, another topic I'd love to get into with you next time is just fitness and, you know, the whole longevity aspect of things. But for women, man, such a fascinating creature that they literally are the ones that give life to us all. Without them, there is no life, right? And also, some of the people that have been in the history of humans treated the roughest. Forget about what race, forget about where you're from. Women, to me, have always been the ones, and I have treated women very shittily, very poorly in my life.
They have much better grammar than men do.
100%. They're definitely smarter, dude. You know, they're definitely smarter. But dude, man, this has been fun. You know, I know we go back and forth about when we're going to do this, but it's low key in here, man. You know, we've hit a lot of different topics, but
and I have some takeaways. So selfishly, this has improved my life.
But this is why I do this, because dude, we're all so busy, man. And in passing, it's cool to sit like, oh, this is what's going on. This is what I think about this. But having a dedicated space to sit down with all kinds of individuals, dude, and just like, what do you think? Here's what I think. There's takeaways from every single one of these that I've done, which is, again, part of why I want to do this. But to end on a different note, this shark that you saw, I saw you out there flying your drone around, but what happened? Tell this story while I pull it up here so we can watch it.
So I got a drone. My wife doesn't know I have a drone. This was is this
stealth top
purpose.
secret? Stealth purchase.
Maybe it's stealth purchase. Yeah. You know, we try to be honest with each other, and I'm not dishonest because I haven't told her I didn't buy one.
Okay. Nice rationalization in your brain.
Exactly. I can see the flaws in my argument. That's why podcasts are great. But I needed a fishing tool, and so I was between a 10-foot cast net, which can get offshore bait. You need a much bigger cast net to get offshore bait.
Yeah.
Or a drone that I could fly off the boat to go find the fish from an aerial perspective, because for some reason I believe that you can see from an aerial perspective fish, bait, floating structure
100%
way better than you can on the boat, and with your sonar or whatever. So I'm like, oh, which one do I do? And she got me the net, so I'm like, all right, I'll go buy the other one, because I really wanted the drone, but I also really wanted the net. It was a great net made by Tim here, who out of Brevard, who makes maybe some of the best cast nets in the entire world.
Nice.
And I'll give him a plug. Maybe you could put in a comment
for
or something
sure.
like that. He's terrific. He's getting older in age, and they're prized possessions.
Really?
And he will customize your net, the diameter, the materials, the weight, everything to what you want, which really blew my wife away, because she's like, I don't know what kind of, he wants a net to catch fish. But anyway, so I got the drone. So as part of it, I wanted to see if I could actually see fish. Like, that's fair. So I'm taking it off here during my lunch breaks, flying out there when there's no wind, and looking across the ocean for fish. Apparently, it's really good at finding sharks. I haven't found any fish. I have a video of one fish, but really good at finding sharks. So I'm cruising, and these are 15,
I'm sure you can find like
pods
pods of bait or mullet running, or
When I do, I'll let you know.
Oh, but you haven't yet.
I have not.
Yeah.
Like, that's the idea.
Yeah.
I found a cloud once I thought was a bait, and it would move away from my drone.
But it was just a reflection of a cloud.
Turned out it kept going over the land.
Okay. So you're
There's
learning
darker
out
water.
there.
Yeah. This is why I'm out there playing.
Yeah. I've always look for the birds. Birds will tell you where there's bait fish, and then that's sort of been, but that's an aerial view, right? You're looking at a bird that's getting a better view than you. So I see where the drone could come in handy for that.
In theory, still.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to hunt sharks, this is great. So anyway, I'm flying over there. And maybe we'll just pull up the footage. There's 3 footages I want to pull up.
So we got which one here?
Let's go with blacktip clip.
This top one?
Yeah. So this is the one of the first sharks I found. It's a minute.
And right here in the Space Coast.
Put it high quality.
Here, where at?
Bottom right. It should be high. Yeah,
settings.
Yeah. Should be 720. It should go up
1080.
to okay. It's supposed to be 4K, but we'll do whatever we got. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see a shark, and I've been traveling for. You mostly find fish post production, so when I bring it back, I can see them. In your phone camera, you can't really see one, but this I actually saw, and so I'm like, oh, we're going to zoom into this puppy. Let's see what this is. And I'm thinking cobia because I'm being hopeful, but it ends up being a shark. To get a good idea, I'm about 80 meters up when we first started.
Okay. And how far offshore are you right now?
I think you'll see definitely way farther than swimming distance.
Okay.
Like, no tourist should be concerned. The city of Cocoa Beach should not pull this podcast down because it has a shark on it.
Hey, man, it's their ocean,
is just
bro.
Way out there. But as you get closer, you can start to see the black fins. And notice how spry it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's swimming around. It's having a good time. It might be a bull shark. The tail looks like a bull shark to me, but it does seem like it has black fins. Anyway, I'm no expert at this. I'm just a dork with a drone. And he gets a little spooked as I get down. I'm probably about 15 feet above the water now, 20 feet. So I estimate he's probably a 3-foot fish, maybe 4-foot shark.
Okay.
Something like that, swimming in the top. Okay, so, maybe you fast forward this a little bit and you could see how far I am. Maybe, yeah. I always, because I wanted to see how far I was, right? I'm like, where are the fish?
Okay.
So I'm about that far away.
So maybe 400 yards or so, you think? Something like that?
Yeah, okay. 400 yards. We'll call it that.
Yeah. So that was a smaller one.
That was the black tip.
Okay.
Now go to Shark MP4.
Here?
Yeah. You can't open it because you're offline. Oh, okay. Okay, so we're going.
We're on
we're scrolling.
Okay.
We're trying to find this fish, and I'm pretty high up there. I'm about 100 meters up right now. So, pretty high, and then I see something big and dark. And the first thing I noticed was, this is not swimming spry like the other one.
No, the other one looked like it was playing around.
Like, this just looks like a giant in how it moves.
Dude, it does, man.
It's like swinging its tail, and you could just...
It's significantly darker.
Significantly darker. Yeah. You can just tell how much water is moving by every swing of that tail.
Oh, my God.
And so I start getting closer, and I've seen a number of sharks at this point, and this guy is just a unit. And you can see a little more remora.
Is he eating something? What is it?
He's just ginormous and just occupying space.
Holy cow, dude!
Slowly moving, and you can see the little fish on him.
Yeah.
On his
what do they call it? You just said it. An amora. What do they call it?
Remora. Yeah. I think. Yeah, but anyway, they're about that big.
Yeah. And they like attach to them usually.
Yeah, attached to them. And so you can do that for kind of a comparison size.
Okay.
It's like this is such a small piece. Anyway, you could go forward and I kind of show how far offshore I am. But so
you look closer there.
A little bit.
That looks closer, man.
Still plenty of 400 yards plus Cocoa Beach.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay. So now, and the reason I show the other one first is you could tell how young it was,
right,
or how small it was by how agile it was, and how big this sucker was. I'd seen maybe 10 sharks at this point. Nothing the size of this, and this is a hammerhead. Obviously, for anybody who doesn't know. As far as I know, hammerheads swim in schools, but this is a massive 14-foot fish in my experience. If you go to comparison, PNG, I have about the size, comparable distance.
Oh, same height? Oh,
same height.
There and there.
That shark could eat that other shark.
Oh, for sure. Think about how much this one has to eat just to sustain that size, that mass, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. They're out there, man. Being a surfer, that's one of the number one questions that you get is, well, what about sharks? Like, yeah, they're out there.
I can tell you,
they're
I've combed the beach because I always thought that they were just all around you all the time. I have not seen a single one in the break. In the surf break. Not a single one.
Even when surfing?
Oh, no, I've seen them surfing. Just not with the drone. I've been hunting them. When I'm not looking for them, they're always there.
I see what you're saying.
And then the very last video, you can go to this one, because I don't know what this is, and I'm always searching for the answers of truth.
What is it, this one here?
What is it?
What is it?
So let's see if you can see this. And so this is a standard post-production spotting of a fish. Had no idea it was there when I was filming. But that's what I'm training my eyes for, is to be able to see these fish while filming from a boat so I can know where to go. Okay, did you see it?
No.
A massive fish showed up on and this is how tough it is to find these things.
All right, hang on. Let me look again.
I replay it. He's already.
Damn, I didn't see it, man.
Look in the no, go all the way to the beginning. Okay. And then look in the upper middle.
Upper middle?
Yeah.
Tell me when he's on screen. I'll pause it. Is he in here?
No. On screen. He's right here.
Oh, right here.
A little above that? Yeah, that's him. So now press play.
Oh, yeah, I saw him. Tarpon, maybe? What do you think?
So rewind again. Now that we're kind of looking at him.
I see him. Yeah.
Now that we're kind of looking at him. I didn't know what he was. He's about a 4-foot fish.
Yeah.
At the end, as he's about to go off screen, it looks like his head's rounded. Which the only fish I know is a mahi.
Yeah.
Mahi are not supposed to be this close to shore.
Really?
Not at all. And so that's the question, is like, is this thing a mahi? And so if you play it again, you can see a rounded head maybe.
As he goes off screen.
Yeah.
So are you seeing this? You found that in post. You didn't find that while you... Okay.
Now, the idea is I do this enough where I can start seeing those things live, because I'm trying to find fish.
That's cool, man. Then take off from the boat, look around, tell you which direction to go, land the thing right back on the boat.
The idea.
Move over.
We're a long ways from that, but that's the idea.
But isn't that the fun, though, of trying new things and the search for different adventures, man? I like it. Well, Mike, this was awesome, dude. I know, we'd gone back and forth about doing this, but shit, man, we can do this.
Only for scheduling reasons. I love the idea of this. I love the idea of this.
But I'll be transparent. It's a little bit, I've always been nervous before every one. It's like, what are we going to talk about? Especially because a lot of times when I do this, it's the first time I've literally ever talked to that person. You and I have talked about other things in advance.
We know we have interesting conversations.
100%,
and again, we have so much for the next episode. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks for all your listeners. I've listened to your other ones. And
thanks, man.
There's a lot of insight there.
Yeah, we're having fun.
This format is terrific. I think it betters humanity.
Nice, man. We'll do it again. We'll get in here and solve all of humanity's problems. How about that?
Build some community.
Sweet, man. I like it.
Yeah,
cool, bro.
Love it.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah. Nice.
No, it was fun.
Piece of cake, man, right? Yeah.
How long did it go? Probably went over.
Hour 57.
Oh, that works.
It's a time warp in here, man. Like,
I love it.
Yeah. That's legit, dude. Oh, that's so fun.